Alan Crone is the founder and CEO of the Crone Law Firm. He is a fifth-generation Memphian who has been active in local and state politics for decades, serving as a former Memphis City Councilman and as a senior policy advisor to the Mayor of Memphis. In 2023, City of Memphis Mayor Jim Strickland appointed Alan to be the chairman of the City of Memphis Sports Authority Board. Alan is a voracious reader and proud father of 3 children he shares with his wife, Allison. Please help me welcome Alan Crone to Novel.
Thanks, Alan. I appreciate it. I know confidently that nobody in this room needed an introduction to know who I am, because I know every single person in this room. And I appreciate everybody for being here. Unfortunately, as you've probably found out if you've paged through this, this is all a big elaborate April Fool joke. I don't have a book, and I'm not going to sign anything. So, no, but I appreciate everybody being here. And Mike Keeney asked me not to spoil the ending of the book. And I'm going to do my best not to do that, Mike. You know, and I've got a couple of things marked. I'm not sure how entertaining it would be to actually read these things, but I do want to tell you why I wrote the book and why I hope that you recommend it to friends and family, is that the most important relationship any of us have is that with our employer, whether we're self-employed or we get a W-2 from somebody or we're an independent contractor working for a bunch of different people. And in 2023, the relationship that you have to your work is changing every second and every minute. A good friend of mine, Dan Norwood, who many of y'all may know, is also an employment lawyer, and he said when I started working in employment law, work was a place that you went. Now it's something that you do. And I think there's a lot of wisdom in that. And so I wrote the book because there are a lot of misconceptions about what people's legal rights are, and that's really kind of where it starts, is what legal rights people have. And those of you who know employment law know that there aren't many employment rights. And the ones that we do have are designed to deter and compensate people who are victims for particular kinds of discrimination and intentional injury and that sort of thing. So the second part of the book really is about how to be a good employer or how to be a good employee, and how to kind of stop thinking a little bit in a 20th century way about your relationship with work and think more about it in terms of 21st century. I say, you know, difference between a Ralph Cramden and a George Jetson. What's the George Jetson solution? Before I go any farther, I do want to recognize some folks and thank some people. First, I want to recognize my wife, Allison, who put up with me with the late nights that I spent, toiling over this. I mean, I would come to bed at 3 or 4 in the morning and then get up a couple hours later, and she put up with all of that, and I appreciate that. She's always been very supportive. I've never come to her and said, hey, guess what I'm going to do? And she said, well, that's a terrible idea, or you're not going to do that. Well, except for one thing, but that was probably a good thing. I told her I was going to run for public office, and she threatened to leave. So, but she's always been very supportive of me, and I just can't tell her how much I appreciate and love her, and thank you. I'd like to thank my children, but none of them are here. So the next time I see them, I'll thank them. I'd like to thank my parents, Dottie and Jim Crone, who are acknowledged in the book, and my sister Maggie, who really works with me at the firm. And I guarantee you, without Maggie Crone, that firm would not exist, because there were lots of days in the early years when I wanted to quit, and I said, well, if I quit, Maggie doesn't have a job. So I had to stay open for Maggie, and I did, and I'm glad I did. But if you read the acknowledgments in the book, you can. She really is the glue that holds our firm together. I've also got a whole bunch of Crones here. My Aunt Pat and her kids and grandkids and in-laws, and I also would be remiss if I didn't thank Miles Mason, who is my former law partner, one of the brothers I never had, has been a great supporter of mine, and hopefully I've been a great supporter of his. I love you, man. I appreciate it. And of course, Jim Strickland, the mayor of Memphis, who is such a great mayor. And I tell people all the time, Jim has given me a great life because Jim has involved me in things that I probably had no business being involved in. It's been the thrill of my life to help him make a difference in the city. So rather than read from the book, let me just kind of tell you the spirit of it. As I said, this is the kind of thing you can sit down at one time and read, or if you've got a particular question, you can read particular sections of it, which I think are helpful. But I think that the thing that really makes employment and work in America in 2023 unique is this notion now that, to a certain extent, the bargaining power between workers and owners is getting a little bit more level, because I was at lunch today. I won't tell you where I was at lunch, but they were understaffed, and it took a long time to get lunch, and the experience wasn't so great. And that's a challenge that just about every business has to overcome. And then if you're a worker, you don't have to go work for somebody and get a W-2. You can do e-commerce, you can freelance, you can do all sorts of things. So I got 3 things that I think you have to have in order to be happy in employment in the United States in 2023. First thing is you have to have a mission. You have to have a mission. And if you've got a business, if you're a business owner, and you've got a business that has a mission, then you can recruit people to help you accomplish that mission. If you're not a business owner and you're going to work for someone, you need to know what your mission in life is. And it really doesn't matter what your profession is, what your industry is. You can have a mission and then find that employer or that partner or that group of people that can help you accomplish that mission. Second thing is you have to have values. You've got to have, at the firm, we have 5, we call them value pillars: excellence, service, reliability, transparency, and integrity. And everything we do, we measure against our mission, which is to essentially eliminate discrimination in the workplace and empower people to make as much money as they can and have as great a life as they can. But we do it adhering to those 5 values, those 4 value pillars. And, you know, it's been, since we've started using that in every facet of our business, from recruitment to, bringing on new clients to vendors, we want to find people who have alignment with those values and with our mission. And then finally, got to have a good time. You know, work doesn't have to be, in fact, it shouldn't be drudgery. Again, if you've got a mission and you've got values and you're doing something in alignment with that mission and those values, you're going to be happy. You're going to have a good time doing what you do. And putting this in a legal setting, I think if you're an employee and you're working somewhere where you can't have fun, and I don't mean just, playing foosball at a break or something, but, where you really enjoy what you're doing, or the company is not aligned with your values, or you don't feel like you're connected with their mission. It's not helping you accomplish what you think your mission in life is. Well, you need to get out. And in this economy, the crazy thing is there are plenty of jobs out there. There are plenty of opportunities out there. And I think if more employers and more employees started aligning themselves in that way, I think you're going to have less people getting fired. You're going to have less people getting treated unfairly. Say all the time, someone asks me, how important is diversity in the workplace? And I say, I think diversity is the worst thing that can happen to a workplace. You say, oh, you can't say that. But to me, what you want is homogeneous commitment to mission, homogeneous commitment to those values. And then the other accidents of nature, where people are from, what color they are, what gender they are, what orientation they have, all of those things, you will get, if you're focused on the mission and you're focused on your values, then you're going to have a workforce that represents America and will be diverse in that sense. But if you're just focused on, you know, I got to get somebody to plug this hole, I got somebody to do this and do that, or I just need a job, and you're not looking for that alignment, then you need to buy the book. Because you may have some problems. So I'm going to open it up for questions. I'd be glad to take questions, give some free legal advice if people need it. Or if you want to buy some of the crickets that you hear. Barry Yoakum, you got a question? You look like you got a question.
I want you to talk about your homogeneous mission thing a little deeper than just 5 words. I have never heard anybody go that route, and I've been around you and I haven't heard it, but I really like versus diversity because it gets watered down.
Well, I say the whole diversity thing more as an attention grabber than anything else. But it's all about mission. For example, for those of you who don't know, Barry is a world-renowned architect and designing our new art gallery downtown and other Memphis landmarks that you would know. Well, you've got a mission. What's your mission?
Amazing design. I mean, something that elevates an experience.
Right. And so if you hire an architect, that all the architect wants to do is come in and put his or her 8 hours in, and they're not committed to that mission of building something special, building something that's unlike anything else, then you're going to have problems with that person. Or if that person comes in and they don't have adherence to maybe one of your values is excellence, and we want to be the best architects in the world, and they're just, they're just okay with horseshoe type architecture, which again, you're going to need other kind of lawyers if you're not excellent in architecture, right? Then you're always going to have performance issues with that person. But if you find somebody who's really committed to what you do, and Barry, you and I have talked, your stuff is a certain taste and genre, and maybe you get an architect who that's not her cup of tea, and she's not happy designing those kinds of or working in that environment. That doesn't have anything to do with you, doesn't have anything to do with her. It's a bad fit. And so I think you can carry this over into any profession, industry. I mean, let's say you're right out of school and you're waiting tables. Well, your mission needs to be one of service and hospitality, right? And so you need to, if you're really buying into that, then no matter whether you're short-staffed at the restaurant or whether you're going to be a great waiter, waitress, because you've bought into that mission. And again, if the mission is of the restaurant is to cater to the high end, let's say it's a steakhouse and you're catering to the high end, but that's not really what you're more comfortable in a bar. Just because the money may be a little better at the steakhouse, maybe you need to go and go to a place where that's where your peoples are. People you like to serve. And I think you can put that into any kind of profession, my profession. If you're just coming in to put your 8 hours in and you're not committed to the mission of helping people make money, helping people resolve their workplace disputes, and that's not something that gives you passion, well, then my advice would be go find out what is your passion. And in this day and age, my youngest daughter majoring in comedy filmmaking at DePaul. And a lot of people my age have asked me, well, what do you think about that? And I'll tell you, the first thing is it makes her happy. That's what I think about it. The second thing is the world needs content now. When you look around, there's all kinds of people who need content. And there are 100 different ways to actually make money doing that. She's already had several private commissions of folks wanting her to either write, commercially write sketches for them or produce videos that are humorous to sell their products. So my point is, if that's your passion, because I asked her, I said, what's your mission, Maggie? She says, I want to make people laugh. That's her mission. Well, you figure out a way to do that and get paid for it. And if that's your mission and that's what you love to do, as the old saying goes, you never work a day in your life. And it also helps the environment, because now you do something as an employer that a lot of people don't do, and that is really understand what it is my business is doing, who I need to have on the bus to help me get to where my business needs to go and accomplish my mission. And you can hire towards that, and you're going to have a lot less issues with people that end up being legal issues. Because I'll tell you the secret, as an employment lawyer, of all the cases I've ever settled, of all the cases I've ever won for race discrimination, age discrimination, all those sorts of things, I don't know the truth. I mean, I don't know what's in people's heart, but I think 99% of it is bad communication. Bad communication. And if you can eliminate that, and part of it is, I talk about in the book, you got to have positive confrontation with people. You know, if somebody's doing something that you don't like, you need to tell them. And again, if it's aligned with your mission, if it's aligned with your values, then it's not going to come as a surprise to people. Great example, it's in the book. There's a guy who came to see me. He had been working for the same employer for 30 years. African-American guy, older, 60s, great guy. All he wanted to do was work hard. Now, he had problems getting to his job, and he was late, 15 or 20 minutes late for the start of his shift for 30 years. And he told me that. He said, now they fired me because they said I was late. Well, that can't be it, Mr. Crone, because I've been late for 35 years. Now, all of a sudden that I got this new white supervisor, it's a problem? No, he's got a problem with my color. Well, who am I to argue with him? But as we got into the discovery, we found out this guy never really said to this guy, look, it's important that you're here on time. You know, our value is, we have a value of reliability. And I got to rely on you that you're here at 8 o'clock every morning. What's preventing you from being here at 8 o'clock every morning? And if he'd asked that question, he would have found out that it was because he's got to rely on MATA to get to work, and it takes him literally 2.5 hours every morning to get from his house to the office and back. Man spends 5 hours on the bus or waiting for a bus. Now, it's his job to get to work on time. But once you understand that, then you can have a conversation about, well, how can we solve that problem? How can we get you here? Maybe it's we start your shift at 8:30 so you can be on time. Maybe it's we help you move so you're closer to the job. But they lost a 30-year employee as a result of that miscommunication, and then they had to pay me and him more money than they expected to pay when they fired him because, again, I always say there's the truth, there's what you can prove in court. What I could prove in court was there were a lot of white folks that had similar late problems who weren't disciplined, yet he was. So again, nobody wants to fire anybody, and that's another thing I talk about in the book. You know, if you're sitting in a termination meeting, the person across the desk, unless they're a sociopath, doesn't want to be there. And there's some sociopaths out in the world, but they don't want to be there either. And so it's all about being human. It's all about trying to get where we need to go. And there's as much responsibility for employees as there are for employers. Any other questions? Probably not after that long answer to Barry. Well, I can't tell y'all how much I appreciate y'all coming out. Thank you so much. I'll be up here to sign the books if you want. Please tell your friends and neighbors about it. And again, thank you all for coming. Y'all have a great weekend, and I'm going to get some justice.